Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm Mark Ischuk. Thank you for joining us on WFAA Plus at noon as we are coming on air today as rallies continue to get underway in North Texas in protest of government policies and President Donald Trump. Several are scheduled here in North Texas, in Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, and Denton. Across the country, more than 2,000 of these rallies planned. Again, part of the so-called No Kings movement. This mobilization, a direct response to President Trump and the military parade he has scheduled in Washington, D.C., ostensibly in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. It also happens to coincide with the president's 79th birthday today. Now, the rally in downtown Dallas is scheduled to get underway right about now. We are checking in with Rebecca Lopez, who is in front of City Hall there. Rebecca, I know when you were there earlier, there were quite a few people gathered, even though it had not officially kicked off. How do things look now?
Yes, they are still thousands of people streaming in here. They're just getting started. The speakers are beginning to speak now. I've seen people from all over the place. There are people that have Black Lives Matter, Gay Pride. There's people that have anti-Trump. I mean, there's a variety of groups here that are represented. And again, the speakers are about to start here. But I would say that this is going to balloon into the thousands of people. It's pretty packed out here.
Have you seen the crowd continue to grow as you've been there on site?
Yes, we're going to pan off so you could just see some of the crowd. We have to be a little careful because some of the signs are, have some profanity, so we're trying to stay away from showing you too much of that. But they are asking right now, you just heard the speaker call for a peaceful protest. Again, that has been the message from Dallas city leaders, from Latino leaders, from activists that have held press conferences saying, let's protest, but protest in a very peaceful and calm manner, because in the chaos, or if it becomes chaotic and civil unrest, then you lose the message. Right now, you don't see a large police presence right now because Dallas police does not want this to look militarized. They want it to have people the right to free speech, but if it gets out of hand, you will definitely see Dallas PD move in. I can see some of the commanders, and obviously they have the helicopters up and people in the crowd. Dallas police will have undercover officers here in the crowd, just making sure that everybody stays safe. But right now, a pretty large crowd, but very peaceful, Mark.
I know, Rebecca, that this is happening as we've seen the immigration protests or anti-immigration protests happen around the country as well. This kind of coincides with that, but that is not what this movement is specifically about. These are separate movements. This No Kings movement really just against what they are considered to be administration overreach and lack of a balance of power. When you've talked to people there on the ground today, what other issues have they brought up that they are protesting today?
Well, that's the overriding, what you just said. The overwhelming response here is checks and balances. People feel like the Constitution is being stepped on. People who feel that there's been overreach by the president and his cabinet. And so they are really protesting for a variety of policies by the Trump administration. But you do see a lot of anti-immigration folks here as well. Again, asking for a peaceful protest. But, also people are making this, they're making some money out of this because there are people out here selling shirts for like $25 a piece. Some of the shirts obviously have some, very interesting messages about the president. And so they're selling those T-shirts out here for like $25. And people are very riled up. But again, it's a variety of issues, not just immigration, Mark.
You are our senior crime and justice reporter, one of our best sources when it comes to what's going on inside local law enforcement here. But when it comes to the state's response, Governor Abbott pretty forceful about what would and would not be tolerated this week. That's why we heard him bring out the National Guard. Have you seen that presence yet? I expected that we might see that more than maybe some of the places like Frisco or Denton in Dallas.
Yeah, I have not seen any National Guard. In fact, I've not even seen the Dallas Police crime response teams. I know that they're staged nearby, obviously ready to respond if they need to, but you won't see a large presence right now, not the SWAT team, not Mounted Patrol, not the crime response teams, and I have not seen any DPS troopers or any National Guard. And I was talking to DPD and some of my sources within the Dallas Police Department, and there's been no real coordinated effort between all of those groups. And, that was interesting because when the Floyd protests happened, DPD's stance was to kind of try and hold the line and not to engage the crowd. But then you saw other law enforcement from other agencies here that were a little bit more aggressive with the protesters. And that is what they're trying to avoid. And that is why LULAC and actually the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Dallas, the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, came out and said, listen, if they try to engage you by chance, don't react. Obey whatever they tell you to do. Don't throw anything at officers. Don't, cuss at them. This is supposed to be a peaceful protest, and all of that will cause chaos, and that is what they are trying to avoid. And they've been very vocal about that here in Dallas to keep this protest peaceful. Mark.
Well, you mentioned earlier just the sheer number of these that you have covered in the past, Rebecca, and I feel like you've kind of got a primed pump here with law enforcement just ready to respond if things get out of hand. They do not want to see here some of the trouble that they saw in Los Angeles and California these past few days. So here's hoping that things do stay peaceful. Rebecca, you're able to keep a great vantage point there on the ground in Dallas. We will check in with her again in just a bit, but we do want to get to some of the other protests we've been seeing around North Texas, in Frisco and Arlington earlier this morning. Chris Sadeghi was in Frisco today. Now another one is underway in Denton. He's made his way there. We want to check in with him live. And Chris, we last caught up with you about half an hour or so ago. How have things changed in the time since we last heard from you?
Yeah, Mark, not a whole lot. This protest continues to be peaceful. They are just making a circle around the courthouse square here in Denton. They have their signs, they have their music, cars are honking their horns. As I mentioned last time, we have seen law enforcement out here, but I wouldn't call it an overwhelming amount. To this point, things have remained peaceful here in Denton. I talked to one gentleman and asked what was the game plan for the protest, how everybody knew exactly what to do not to step out into traffic. And he said that there were lots of communications by text, by email, by social media, making sure everybody knew exactly what they could and could not do. And to this point, I have not seen any issues, nobody in the roadway, police not called into action. We were in Frisco a little bit earlier this morning, and we have video from that protest. It looked a little bit different, but still very much the same vibe with people with their signs, very festive atmosphere. We talked to Frisco PD. They said that right now that protest is just about wrapping up and that they saw no significant issues. They said that there were no citations, no arrests. They only had to give some verbal warnings. So in both locations we've been to this morning, we've not seen any significant issues. Like Rebecca said earlier, you look at the reason people are out here, generally they're all very unsatisfied with the direction of the country, with the role of the current administration and the government. And while I would say the majority out here have signs and are making chants in support of immigrants, I've seen one sign that said, hands off my NPR, protest saying that NPR, they want to continue to see NPR funded. I see another that says, fund education, not war. So it's a variety of different causes these people are out here speaking for, in support of, and in many cases against, just depending on where they stand with this government. And we know this is happening all over the country, not just here in North Texas, many rallies planned, but to this point, I would say we have not seen any significant issues. There was that one counter-protester, Mark, that you mentioned last time. I have not seen him since. It looked like he was just very quick in and out from what I can tell, but to this point, peaceful, and I think that's what everybody involved, law enforcement, the protesters, I think that's what they planned and what they wanted. Back to you.
Yeah, and Chris, I know just looking at the election results from the federal election last year, Denton County did go in favor of Donald Trump, but I think that when you look at the city of Denton, they historically have had more progressive policies as well. Do you notice any difference between what you're seeing on the ground there in Denton versus what you saw in Frisco earlier?
I would say in both cases, it was people of all ages. You are right. Of course, the Denton Courthouse Square is just a short distance from the University of North Texas, a college campus, which we know traditionally tend to skew a little bit more progressive. But as I look around, I see people of all ages, all different types of signs and purposes. And I would say we saw the same thing in Frisco, a little bit different setup. They were along the street side in Frisco, but the energy, the purpose, the motivations, very similar, I'd say.
All right. Well, again, we are glad to hear that things have been peaceful on the ground so far. That is what organizers I know were hoping for, and what our law enforcement and local and federal officials, state officials, would certainly like to see today. So, Chris, thanks for being there in Denton. We'll check in with you more in just a bit. We know that Texas Governor Greg Abbott activated the National Guard in response to today's protests and the demonstrations against the Trump administration's immigration policies. More than 5,000 of those troops and 2,000 state police available to help pitch in with local law enforcement.
We want to make sure that what has happened in California does not happen in Texas. Texas is a law and order state, and we will use every tool that we can to ensure order across our state.
Officers and guardsmen had been deployed to San Antonio earlier this week. There was a protest there on Wednesday. That demonstration was peaceful. Mayors in San Antonio and Austin both said they did not ask for the governor to mobilize the National Guard in their cities. Meanwhile, I want to share with you a view around the country as we are looking at the protest happening in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, these again in response to that military parade happening in Washington, D.C. Of course, Minnesota dealing with their own issues there today. ABC News reporting that 2 of their state legislators shot and killed today by someone dressed as a police officer. Of course, we'll keep our eyes on that story and get it to you as it's relevant. But this is Washington, D.C., where the military is gearing up for that big parade set for tonight, marking the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and Flag Day. That event expected to include more than 6,000 soldiers, 50 helicopters, M1 Abrams battle tanks, and possibly a couple of 100,000 attendees. Heightened security on hand as well to match. And there are several events planned around that parade in the nation's capital. A wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery, live performances by the Army's band and drill team as well, and some public recognition for Medal of Honor recipients. Again, that parade is scheduled to begin at 5:30 our time, followed by a concert at the Ellipse and fireworks over the national monuments. Of course, you can watch that parade streaming right here on WFAA Plus later on this evening. Want to get again back out to the rally in downtown Dallas in front of City Hall. Rebecca Lopez, we caught up with her a bit earlier, and things had just been kicking off when we caught up with you at the top of the noon hour, Rebecca. Now we're about 10 minutes and change into what's going on there in downtown Dallas. And is there a theme on top of the No King protest idea that you keep hearing over and over again? Any specific messaging that organizers want to relay?
Yeah, that is the theme. You have speakers right now. We just heard a little while from an attorney that was talking about people's civil rights and civil liberties. And in fact, they even gave a shout out to journalism a while ago. And they are just basically saying, look, this administration is trampling on the Constitution. That seems to be the biggest message here by this group. By the way, there are counter protesters that are supposed to show up here shortly. They're in another area around City Hall, but I'm told that there are some pro-President Trump supporters as well that will be here today, and DPD is trying to keep the two groups separated. You're also seeing just messages from all kinds of groups. You have gay pride, you have people here with Black Lives Matter, you have the Brown Berets, people that are wanting the administration to change their immigration policy and swooping in. It's been a very aggressive policy, as we have seen. So basically the message is just overall what this administration has been doing. That just seems to be the theme here. And again, I'm now like near the stage, so I cannot see how big this crowd has grown, but I would say it is in the thousands. There are people still streaming in, Mark.
We just took a view from one of our helicopters, Rebecca, and it does look like there are quite a few people there, at least from the view that we can see there, kind of packed in near City Hall in downtown Dallas. Now, you mentioned immigration. This is happening amidst those immigration protests that took place in California earlier this week and last weekend. That is certainly one of the, I think, big topics people are focusing on. How much specifically are you hearing about that?
Oh, there's a lot of that right now. You see a large Latino contingency here. And like I said, LULAC, the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, other Latino groups and Latino activists have been encouraging people to come out here and to protest peacefully and to stand up to what they believe is unfair of what this president has been doing in his aggressive policy. And, you know, I saw earlier a tweet by President Trump Trump saying that he might back off a little bit on going into places like meatpacking plants and hotels and restaurants and taking employees basically from some of these businesses. So are the anti-immigration protests working? Remains to be seen, but it seems that the president is hearing the anger about some of the workers that are being taken into custody because, again, the message was we're going to take the criminals, the violent criminals. That is what the president has been saying. And throughout the years, the Dallas Police Department and others in this region have always arrested violent criminals despite their immigration status, and they put them in jail, and they're not here legally. They are kept in custody at the jail by the sheriff's department, and eventually, if they see their day in court, if they're found innocent, then they're still deported. If they're found guilty, they do their time, and then they're deported. So there are and have been throughout the decades this same policy by the Dallas Police Department that they arrest people that are here illegally if they have committed a violent crime. But their policy is not to specifically target people just to check their immigration status. There's been a U.S. Supreme Court ruling back in 2012 that prohibited local law enforcement from participating in any kind of immigration specifically I'm sorry, somebody was trying to flag me down just a second ago. Basically, the Dallas Police is not allowed to determine someone's immigration status. That is up to federal authorities. And that is the message Dallas Police has also been trying to get out. We're not going to come look for you just because we think you are here in the country illegally. But if you commit a crime, you will be arrested. Mark.
Well, and I think that's been the frustration among the folks protesting is no matter where you fall on this issue, even the government's own data suggests that not everybody there rounding up falls under that criminal bucket, and the violent criminal for sure, that there are some folks that are getting swept up as well that that label does not apply to. And I think even the other statistics government has shared in the past indicate that immigrants commit crime at a lower rate than American citizens do, which is, I think, why you're seeing some of the frustration from some of those folks. But either way, this is a policy that the Trump administration campaigned on and is underway in the country. We've seen that publicized quite a bit, and one of the things people are protesting against today. Again, Rebecca, I know you're kind of right there by the stage. Again, the signage you referenced, we're trying to keep our camera clear of some of the, let's say, more R-rated signs. Would you say that's a big number of them, or most of them, fairly family-friendly?
I'm looking at one sign right now that says there's no money. If there's money for a parade, then there's more for there needs to be some money for Medicaid. One that says June 14th, freedom of speech, criminals, January 6th, criminals like POTUS. I mean, those are some of the signs that you're seeing. Keep the heat on ice. Ice will melt. And so you're seeing just a variety of signs out here. But a lot of it does seem to be around the ICE immigration issue, but also this idea of the no king, that people feel that President Trump is acting like a king, and that is the big messaging here. And there's a lot of signs that say no king in America, and they were giving out those signs to the crowd earlier today. So that, again, that seems to be the main message. No, and then there's one sign I'm reading right now that says no king since 1776. So that's what you're basically seeing out here, Mark.
Right, and that's why these protests have been planned to take place on June 14th. Rebecca Lopez, again from downtown Dallas, thank you for that coverage. Because the organizers said that they wanted to coincide with that military parade that had been scheduled for June 14th in Washington, D.C. It happens to coincide with the president's birthday, and he had reports that he had wanted a military parade for his birthday, and I think for the No Kings organizers, that seemed like a good time for them to want to get their message out. And many of them are in Fort Worth this morning, which is where our Adriana de Alba is. We caught up with her earlier in Arlington. This is our first time to catch up with you at the rally at Burke-Burnett Plaza in downtown Fort Worth, Adriana, and I can see kind of the crowd of folks behind you. How would you compare the crowd you're seeing in Fort Worth versus what you saw earlier this morning in Arlington?
Yeah, Mark, it's really interesting, different setup. So in Arlington, we saw folks kind of on both sides of Abrams Street. As far as the eyes can see, it was more widespread. This is kind of more condensed into one area. This is a park in downtown Fort Worth, and everybody's gathered in one place. There's not much movement happening, and I'm told that this will just be them staying here at the park, that they will not be marching. I don't see a stage either set up for speakers, so I believe this will just be folks standing in place, holding up their signs, chanting. We're seeing a lot of drivers come by, honking in support of this protest, this King's Day protest that is happening across the nation today. We've talked about the dozen protests happening in North Texas, and really, Mark, it's an interesting contrast what is happening in the country today. On the one hand, in D.C., you have Trump and the administration preparing for a military-style parade for Flag Day, which also coincides with his birthday. But then you have people gathered nationwide, making their voices heard, and really the message that they are sending, that they're proclaiming in these signs and what they've said to us in interviews is no kings. They are saying they do not want a fascist government. Those are their words. They're speaking out on several issues. We know that the immigration issue has really garnered attention with recent developments happening and ICE raids. But this is about more than just that. People are chanting for democracy. They are chanting for freedom in this country, and they are chanting for going back to a place where you're not going to see federal programs cut. They are upset with proposed tax cuts to billionaires. And the people here are really wanting to make their voices heard in Fort Worth. We know that Rebecca was in Dallas. We were in Arlington earlier today. I'll tell you, this crowd seems a little bit younger than what we saw in Arlington. But I'll say that at both, you saw young, middle-aged, and older people, a diverse crowd. And this we're seeing across North Texas. And so this, if I had to guess, is at least 1,000 people coming here together to share this message. Lots of loud cheering, as you can hear, and I'll just kind of let you see the scene. So it's not only protesters on the ground chanting, it's kind of a car protest as well that's happening on the ground here in Fort Worth. But I will send it back to you, Mark. That's what we're seeing here. This, by the way, is set to happen until 2 p.m. today, and it is just kicking off. We have not seen any National Guard as of yet. We've seen a lot of Fort Worth police officers stationed around the area, keeping an eye on things. But that's what we're seeing here in Fort Worth. We're going to go ahead and keep an eye on this, and we'll check back with you just a bit.
All right, thank you for that, Adriana. Again, Adriana de Alba coming to you from Burke Burnett Plaza in Fort Worth. And I do want to apologize to our viewers. You might, if you happen to be an eagle-eyed viewer with really great vision, you might have seen a few of those signs that are inappropriate for broadcast television. But we are trying our best to make sure that all the ones we show you are family-friendly this morning. Want to get back out to Denton, Texas, where Chris Sadeghi is spending time with those protests on the ground. Chris, you were in Frisco this morning. You made your way to Denton, and we have seen things kind of pick up at the Dallas and Fort Worth rallies that we just checked in on. How are things looking in Denton?
Yeah, Mark, things continue to be peaceful here in Denton as they're just circling the courthouse square. This protest, from what I'm able to gather, will probably go a little longer than the one that we were at in Frisco this morning, which is already wrapped up. We started with some speakers out here at 11 o'clock. They were up on the podium, on the microphone. Now they're circling. It seems like more and more people are joining. We're told that there will be more speakers a little bit later on in the afternoon. But as I told you last time, the signs, the energy, the chants, the cars honking their horns, as you might hear, lots of flags. Very similar energy that we saw in Frisco, and the frustration with the government, the dissatisfaction with the direction of the country, the same in both of the spots that we went to this morning. I updated you last time, and I think we have video from Frisco, if we can roll that. In Frisco this morning, they got started early at 9 o'clock. There were protesters on both sides of FM 423, and that rally has just about wrapped up, according to the police. We checked in with them and they said no citations, no arrest, that they just had to issue some verbal warnings. Of course, the police, the law enforcement there to make sure that they are not obstructing a roadway. Here in Denton, we have seen Denton County Sheriff's deputies. We've seen Denton police officers, and they're doing the same thing, making sure that nobody gets in the roadway here around the square and causes any disruptions to traffic, which we have not seen so far. I'll also tell you that it's not an overwhelming law enforcement presence. They are here, but not omnipresent, I would say, as there are hundreds and hundreds of people here on the courthouse square. They have their signs, they have their energy. So far, they are remaining peaceful. We talked to a gentleman who said that there was lots of communication in the days leading up via text, social media, email, making sure people knew exactly how they were going to handle this protest. And we would think that would probably be a similar type story to all the protests that are happening across the area today and across the country, because we know there are a lot of them scheduled, Mark.
There are quite a few here in North Texas again and around the United States. Chris, thank you for that update coming to us from Denton this morning. I want to get back out to Dallas near City Hall, where our Rebecca Lopez, we've checked in with her a few times already this morning. And again, they're about coming up on 20-25 minutes into the activities going on there. And any tone change worth telling our viewers about, Rebecca?
Well, Mark, you're just seeing and hearing a lot of fiery speeches right now. I'm going to let you listen in. This is someone with the LGBTQ community and very fiery speeches. I'm going to let you listen in for just a second.
Unless you know, Peter Thiel's personal protege is now the Vice President of the United States. Less think, less speech, less critical thinking. This is their agenda. They don't want you to talk about the housing crisis in this country, the medical crisis, the transit crisis in this country, the climate crisis, everything. So this is what they want. They want AI taking over these narratives for them and have you not thinking. This is adamant. This is all par for the course. Anyways.
They're shouting for a medic right now. It is really, really hot out here, Mark, and that seems to be one of the big concerns is just the heat. There are very few trees out here in front of Dallas City Hall, and right now it looks like there's a medical emergency of some sort. They're yelling for a medic to come out here, and we're trying to make a path. We're clearing a path right now, Mark, because there's a medical emergency here on the scene.
Okay, we'll cut away from that, Rebecca. If you can find out what's going on, hopefully that person, whoever is needing the medical attention, is okay, and maybe it is just a little bit of heat exposure today. We do know that it is warm outside, coming up on 90 degrees. Then you got the heat index as well. But again, that's in downtown Dallas. You see our aerial shot of the protests, that No Kings movement that has scheduled thousands across the United States today on this June 14th. We caught up with Adriana D'Alba earlier this morning in Arlington, and again in downtown Fort Worth just a few minutes ago at Burke Burnett Plaza. We're going to head back that direction now to just check in with her again. And we got some of the messaging, Adriana, from the downtown Dallas protest. I don't know that I've seen any speakers where you are. Are you hearing anybody speaking, or is this just kind of folks cheering on those cars as they drive by?
Hey, Mark, no speakers here yet. And like I said earlier, I haven't seen a stage where that would happen. What we are seeing are chants. There's a band. As we were walking here, sorry, my throat's a little dry. As we were walking here, you could just hear the crowds and their loud cheers echoing across downtown Fort Worth. I mean, it is loud and it's growing by the minute. I'll kind of let my photographer Cody here pan around and show you. You mentioned signs with some foul language. We're doing our best to avoid that and keep it clean for you all. So apologies if anything makes air that isn't supposed to. Just know that we are. But so many signs, as you can see, just all around. You see some flags there, American flags, Mexican flags. One flag straight ahead is upside down. But what I'm seeing here is a large Hispanic community showing up to protest on this No Kings Day. If I had to guess, this is at least 1,000 people. I mean, we're gonna make our way further into the crowd here in just a moment once I sign off with you, but we're kind of on the outside across the street, and so far it's been peaceful. Just lots of people showing up and chanting honking from these cars as they pass by. And then as we kind of look around the other side of the street, we're on 7th Street in front of this park. The other side is now beginning to fill up as well with people. You see busyness on the crosswalks with more and more arriving. Now this is supposed to take place until 2 p.m. So we're going to see if it ends at 2, but that is what they're permitted for. You see again cars coming by handing Gatorade and water bottles to people. So what I'm seeing here is peaceful. I've not seen any altercations, but I am in contact with Fort Worth PD, checking in to see if anything comes up. But what I just received from Fort Worth PD, I asked, do they have permission or not to march? And I'm told unless they join in with the other march of dissent. So I'm going to get some clarity on what that means. But for now, everybody is staying put in this area, the square of downtown Fort Worth. And we will check back in with you, Mark. But that's what's happening right now in downtown Fort Worth. Back to you.
Yeah, again, I know they don't want those protesters on the roadways blocking traffic, and that is one of their concerns. So Adriana de Alba in downtown Fort Worth at Burke Burnett Plaza. If you know that area, just to the west of downtown Fort Worth, that's where so many folks have showed up for that No Kings protest in Fort Worth today. And we've kind of been doing a little bit of a round robin right now with some of the ones underway. About 16 or so protests scheduled in North Texas, and they have been scattered schedule-wise throughout the morning. Now it's noon and later on today as well, ahead of that June 14th, Flag Day event planned for Washington, D.C. tonight. I believe that one's at 5:30, and you can watch that one here on WFAA Plus as well. But we want to get back out to Chris Ottegi in Denton this morning. And again, Chris, I checked in with you a bit ago, and I said, you kind of just have an idea that at least when it comes to Denton proper, you've got a lot of progressive folks associated with the university, a lot of college students there. And I was curious about the difference between what you saw there versus Collin County and Frisco earlier this morning. And you said it was pretty much the same in terms of the makeup of those crowds.
Yeah, Mark, from what I can tell, I've seen people of all ages at both locations. And when you asked me that, I mentioned the University of North Texas right down the road. So a heavy college student presence here in Denton. You see people in that age group out here, but also young kids, older people, older adults. They're all here, and a very diverse crowd, I would say, as well. It's been very orderly, and as I look around, it does look like the organizers who helped organize this gathering, they are making their rounds. I think it is in their best interest. They want to make sure that everything is staying nice, calm, that the protest remains peaceful, and that they do not get out into the street or cause any other disruption which might draw the attention of police or law enforcement. I think that they know that detracts from the message they are trying to send here today, not only here, but across the area. We were in Frisco a little bit earlier this morning. They got started real early at 9 o'clock, and it was a crowd on both sides of FM 423. They had their signs. They were making their chants. The cars that were passing by were honking their horns. A very similar atmosphere as what we're seeing right now here in Denton. I was listening to you guys a little earlier. Rebecca mentioned the possible emergency situation there. I can tell you it's a very warm day here in Denton. Fortunately, there's lots of people out handing out water. I mentioned that this rally might go a little bit longer than that one in Frisco, which is already, it sounds like, starting to wrap up according to Frisco PD. But the people here tell me that there's going to be speakers throughout the afternoon. So this could be a lengthy demonstration. As they're walking around the courthouse square, we seem to notice that more and more people join. Their costumes, their signs, it seems like there's new ones each time they come around. So they plan on taking part in what's going on across the country, expressing the frustration with the government, expressing the frustration with the administration in a lot of different ways and a lot of different causes, whether it's supporting immigrants, whether it is supporting education. I just look around and the signs are very varied as far as what they are here to speak out for, what they're here to speak out against. But the good news right now for everyone involved, it's remained peaceful. We have not seen any arrest. We have not seen really any interaction with police from what I can tell. I did mention earlier out in Frisco, they issued a few verbal warnings, but no citations or arrests that we've heard of here in either location this morning, Mark.
Okay, and I know that's what law enforcement would like to hear, and the organizers were really pushing hard for, Chris. Again, Chris Saudi out in Denton County, thank you for that update. As we turn our attention back to Dallas County in downtown Dallas, where Rebecca Lopez is hanging out near City Hall. And again, you had the medics called out for some kind of an incident the last time we caught up with you, Rebecca. Any updates for us?
Yeah, we were walking out of the sun area because we got really hot as well, so we moved to a shaded area, and as we were walking back over here to where the trees are, we did see an elderly woman passed out and being treated. So people do, if they're coming out here, need to bring plenty of water, bring a hat, bring sunscreen, because it is very hot, and this rally is expected to last quite a while, Mark. And so there are obviously a lot of Dallas paramedics, a lot of Dallas police officers, so people can get medical attention pretty quickly, but it is extremely hot. You were talking a little bit about, has the tone changed? You're just hearing a lot of fiery speeches. And, you know, what I find interesting at this particular rally, it's not just anger at President Trump, but also Governor Abbott. There are a lot of signs out here that say Trump and Abbott are dictators. This is their words. These are what are on the signs. And so there's a lot of anger also towards Texas policy and what the governor and the governor's actions as well. So it's not just President Trump. And a little while ago, I saw this big, huge piñata head of President Trump and also one of Governor Abbott. So, you know, these are people that are wanting to hear, want people to hear their voices. There does seem to be a sentiment of, we want to keep our civil liberties, our freedom of speech. You hear a lot of that. You know, we need to take this country back to where there is liberty and justice for all. In fact, I'm seeing a sign right now that says just that, liberty and justice for all. That is the overall message here at this particular rally, and probably all across the country, Mark.
Certainly, we have heard that kind of far and wide this morning as we have checked in with you folks. And again, you mentioned the heat, Rebecca. I know you guys went out there with some water this morning. I hope you're able to stay hydrated and stay safe. That is one of the goals of the protest organizers, that this be an issue or a event without any issues. Kind of a contrast to what we saw in Los Angeles over the past week. I lived in Los Angeles for many years and have talked to my friends out there who say that some of the coverage was a bit overblown in terms of just how widespread the issues were, but we did see some cars on fire. We did see clashes with police. We saw people get arrested both as a result of the protests and also the immigration raids. Now, this is a view from KCBS, which is the CBS affiliate out of Los Angeles, and you can see what appear to be several thousand people. I believe this is downtown LA, the view that we are seeing right now. But those protests have been pretty much nonstop each day of the week, going past into last weekend when those immigration raids kind of kicked up there. And I'm trying to just kind of make it out from some of the landmarks. Again, this is not our helicopter. This is KCBS, the CBS affiliate in Los Angeles, their chopper this morning, so we don't control the view, but there's kind of zooming in and out of that rally. And unlike what we saw here in North Texas, you see a lot of folks out and about on the streets, a lot of folks marching. That is something that Governor Greg Abbott and law enforcement officials here in Texas said they did not want to see, was people on the streets impeding traffic. There were some concerns you might see folks on Interstate 35 yesterday. So they want to make sure that doesn't happen here, but we are seeing that in downtown Los Angeles via the view there. And again, those battles played out very publicly this past week. Clashes between protesters and law enforcement and immigration officials, really kind of a tinderbox, if you will, of angry Angelenos and the federal officials out there trying to enforce immigration law. Now, how well they enforce that, is maybe a question for a different day, but we're seeing now that, at least from this vantage point, things do seem pretty peaceful. They are taking to the streets in Los Angeles. Hard to really make out the signs, although I can see ICE mentioned several places, saying flags, United States flags. I think I saw a Jamaican flag there a minute ago, but those protesters taking to the streets today on this Flag Day in LA. We've got our chopper up here in North Texas as well. We've got a couple of vantage points, one in Fort Worth from a helicopter, one in Dallas as well. Now you can compare the crowd sizes. Obviously, neither city has the population that Los Angeles does, but Dallas and Fort Worth, I'd say a sizable showing, and we heard that from Rebecca Lopez and Adriana de Alba as well, both from Rebecca in Dallas and Adriana when she was in Arlington earlier today too, that she felt like the crowd was pretty sizable, substantial, and continuing to grow. That's what we are seeing right now. And again, it has been peaceful here in North Texas. That is the hope. It will continue that way throughout the rest of the day. Both organizers and law enforcement and state officials are hoping that it is the case as well. Don't want to see anybody hurt or injured today, and that is the case so far. So fingers crossed for the rest of the day. But that's how things look right now. We are keeping our eyes on the ground, and we've got crews out there as well. We will check in with you in just a bit with more from the No Kings Day protests here on WFAA Plus. But thank you for hanging out with us in the meantime. I'm Mark Histok, and we'll check back in with you in just a bit.